All right, we have Gregory Crane on today to talk to us a little bit about private money lending and some of the things that we really need to watch out for when putting our hard-earned capital to work. Gregory, thanks for coming on.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you don't mind introducing yourself to my community and tell them a little bit about you, where you're from, and what got you into the private money lending business.
Sure. Well, I'm from California originally, moved to Tennessee back during COVID, and got into the real estate world last year. Discovered the Gator method training, and that was sort of one of my first. I first learned about private money, from a lot more simple stance, 10, 12% interest, that sort of things. And then you hear about the Gator method, and it's like, oh, I can make a lot more of a return in a shorter time period. And so that obviously became very appealing. So I jumped into that community and started making connections and really using networking as my number one business strategy. I kind of look at my avatar as a connector, both as a role and just kind of how I want to operate as an investor. So got into private money lending because it was much better return than seeing in my 401k or my mutual funds. And I think when you can have an investment secured by real estate, it's a good one. And I think we were talking before the call that sometimes you don't always get into the wisest partnerships in this business because you're just hungry and wanting to put some points on the board. So I've certainly learned how to take my mind and take my time rather and get really comfortable with saying no to an opportunity before there's something that feels really right.
Yeah, so you jumped into this community, you said, was that early last year, 2023?
Yeah, exactly a year ago. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so 1 year, and I remember seeing your name start popping up a lot, and you were very active, and you still are very active in the community. So, yeah,
Yeah, I enjoy, living out in Tennessee, not really having a big local community. I really enjoyed the encouragement and the ability to grow partnerships nationally. I've started a private mastermind Facebook group chat of people that I've met in this community, and so we kind of all support each other and tell folks what to look out for and ask questions and provide resources and new deal opportunities. So I've gotten a lot of reinforcement and energy out of this community and building my own little micro communities.
yeah, that's great. And the little niche communities is such a big help when you find people that are active in this and want to keep learning and growing and getting better at what we're doing. So,
Yeah, I think the act of and the art of improving your life and your family standing is something that I am really passionate about. And I got into this when I was at a crossroads where I was having a transition with work and I said to myself, I have to find some way to just make more money. And then that quickly became, well, do I always need to make money just from a day job? Like, is that the only way to do this? And I had gone down the entrepreneur mindset road many, many years ago and had some rough experiences then. And so kind of put it away and worked the corporate path for a while and was at a transition at Crossroads last year where I knew that I needed to do something different. And, I'm really glad I did. I'm still learning. I'm still making a lot of mistakes. I'm still chasing lots of shiny objects, but I'm was just talking with a coach that I'm working with, and he just keeps saying, just look at what you've done in a year and where you've come. So pretty stoked about that.
yeah, so let's touch on whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Some of those first deals you did that didn't turn out so good and
Yeah.
why they didn't turn out so good.
Oh gosh. Probably because I broke all the rules. Right. So, and I love talking to newer people who, are considering a deal or are maybe starting to get uh into one that's not going well. I mean, getting out of them, I think you said this earlier, like once you get out of like getting out of it isn't always the easiest thing, but so you have to take extra steps before you get into it. So, um, geesh. Well, I would say first and foremost is the loan to own kind of mantra. So my first deal that was a problem, it was first position, I thought the value was about 100, 120, and I was in for 70. Now that's still not enough of a spread, but I thought it was enough. And obviously what I should have done is called a bunch of different realtors, gotten, opinions of people on the ground and say, if you had to sell this house today, what would it sell for? And then use that as a baseline, not, whatever it is. So underwriting the property, A, underwriting the exit strategy of, okay, once they buy it, how are they going to pay you back? The exit strategy was a refinance on a personal residence, which might be fine, but I would advise anyone who was getting into that same situation have a letter from a lender that says they're pre-qualified to get to refinance this property, right? So I know that they are already on their way. Get their credit report. If you're using their personal credit as an exit strategy, I would also say get their, some sort of proof of funds that they'll be able to close on another loan. So underwriting the property itself, underwriting the exit strategy, and then probably the most critical one is underwriting the person and the investor themselves.
Yep.
I know there's Melissa Palmer and that whole investor passport thing, but there's a lot you can do on your own in terms of Facebook snooping, calling other partners that they've worked with, lenders that they've worked with before, asking for HUDs and documentation and all of that. So, yeah, was really just sort of wowed by a big return. And, someone threw out that magical word cross collateral, where this deal was cross collateralized by a property with equity, but it wasn't really cross collateralized because in order to do that properly, you need to have a lien against a second property that has a title search and that has a kind of that you're in a secure position there, and obviously doing all that with a TC and getting your properly recorded paperwork because there's been a lot of let's say creative escrow work that I've seen happening to people who are doing lending these days.
Yeah, definitely. And what you just touched on at the end of that is one of the first things I have people do when, whether it's my money or bringing somebody into a deal, is making sure that you check to actually see if you have that property's recorded. That money that you put out there, do you have anything against that property? Did it get recorded by whatever county you're in? It's amazing how many people don't even check on that first step when your money goes
Yeah, and
out.
it is not, I'm close with a TC and you've been through the training, so you probably know this. It is not the TC's job or responsibility to record that paperwork.
No, no.
They they run the conversation with the title company. They draft documents. They are not your lawyer. They are not your underwriter. Hopefully the TCI work with, we're great friends, but the due diligence is your responsibility, and you can't make a bad investment decision and then come back and point fingers at a TC. You just can't. Now, a title company, they have a legal responsibility to make sure that things are done properly, but you need to also follow up with them and say, I'm making sure that these documents are recorded and please, overnight them to me as soon as they are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that was your first deal, and what came about of that? What did you get money back,
Uh,
or do you have to
I
keep the
had
property
first
back?
position. So unfortunately, this person was kind of, I wouldn't say she was duped into it, but she had a boyfriend who was sort of putting her into all these investments, and she was just sort of signing things and using her name because he had a salty past. Um, so that's another thing I'd say is even though they screwed me over very early and often, I maintained a good relationship with her, and I believed her when she said she really didn't know what she was getting into. And I knew that even though felt like I was being wronged, if I didn't have an open line of communication with her and if I didn't have a good working relationship with her, it would have been so much more difficult. So I made sure to just show compassion and I lowered the return that I was asking for very, very early on. Once she sort of said, I don't really know all these deals, and we were trying to work on an exit strategy for many months. Eventually, all those fell apart. And I said, look, there's no exit here that's really going to work. I'm going to get a deed in lieu foreclosure drafted by a title company, and you're going to sign it, and you're just going to deed the property back to me. So that actually went fairly smoothly. uh, I decided to spend a little extra money in hiring a mobile notary to go to her because I just, didn't want to like email her paperwork and say, "Oh, please get this printed and scan." You know what I mean? I just like needed to spend a little extra money to make sure that things happen the right way. And actually, before I had even gotten that deed in lieu signed, I'd already started marketing the property to sell it. Um, I could have probably held it and maybe put in more money to rehab it, and kept it as a rental or something. It wasn't in the greatest area. It needed a bunch of work, and I just thought it was my first deal and I'd been through so much with it that I just wanted to wholesale it and kind of be done with it. So I was able to sell it fairly like within a few weeks of getting the deed in lieu recorded. And I just said, you know what, I took a loss, and I have other deals that have gone well. I'm certainly on the positive side of the ledger overall. So it's just, all of these are very expensive seminars. That's
Right.
I don't know who used that phrase once, but it's, you lost 15 grand or whatever. That was a great seminar you went to.
Yeah, yeah, you're going through, I mean, do you want to go to college for 4 years or do you want to learn the hard way and spend less money than going to college to, I mean, have a hard loss that really was a huge lesson. It's like you put yourself through school of private money lending.
Yeah, and you're in the middle of it. And I mean, I had retirement accounts and stuff, and I was meeting all these people, and I just kind of said yes to everything early on, and
Yeah.
had a bit of a freak out when it was just, a lot of things weren't going well, but things have mellowed out a bunch, and I've learned a lot and shifted my strategy somewhat, just kind of not expecting gargantuan returns on everything and really focusing more on who are the players, what market is it in. I'm very trepidatious about what the economy is going to be like over the next few months. So I'm probably going to pull back from lending and certainly not involved in any flips over the next 3, 4, 5 months. Now, that being said, I'm doing a few flips myself and I'm funding those because it's in my market, and I know it, if any worse goes to worse, I could just refinance it and hold it as a rental and wait for the economy to improve. Um, but those are the lessons that I learned, is like just be diversified into different types of lending. So one of the things that I've shifted in is I joined another mentorship, which is a mobile home flipping mentorship, and offered myself as a capital partner there. Um, and I like that because it's a low price point. These houses have a lot of buyers. It's affordable housing, and these investors are buying mobile homes for 10, 15,000, and they're selling them for 30 to 40. And I'm just coming in and providing them capital to be able to do more deals and charging 15 to 20% for 90 days. So the problem there is that you don't have a lien recorded against real estate. So it's more of a relationship based. I mean, I'm doing a promissory note and I'm doing a personal guarantee, but I don't have like a recorded lien in anything. And I'm working on other security measures, possibly like going on the LLC as a majority owner to try and secure my interest, but I'm still sort of learning how to do that.
Right. That would also help you with a little bit more control as well if the deal does start going south. So,
Yeah, and I mean the one woman that I've lent to, a lot of it is it's a pretty small mentorship community. The coach is great and super available, and he's kind of personally referred these people to me and recommended them. So you don't want to go off all of that, but I feel a little nurtured in that, knowing that they don't want to ruin that relationship with the coach. Um, so yeah, it's just something new that I'm trying to kind of pivot because I don't want to be lending on 200, $300,000 houses when there's part of me that's just pessimistic and feels like there's a serious correction coming or a serious credit crunch or something. And I've been saying that for 4 or 5 months now, but when you hear about all the commercial debt that's kind of defaulting and things like that, it harkens back to '08.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, the commercial market, that's a whole different story now. And I haven't put any of my funds out in a commercial loan. I haven't even I don't think I'm even good enough to underwrite a commercial loan. So
Mm.
I just don't feel comfortable there. And like you said, you're finding out where you're comfortable now after making a few mistakes early, but not just, crawling up and blaming other people on what you've done. You've learned from them and are building your systems to better yourself and figure out what investment strategy is right for you. So,
Yeah, and I go back to the mastermind that I started and having that team of people kind of, to lament with and also to help educate because there's people there who maybe haven't done as much deal or were nervous about it. And so helping to educate them on what not to do. And I just felt a great responsibility to like stay in the game for that team that I was nurturing.
yeah, so touch on that. Now you're in Pace's mentorship with the Gator Lending. You're in another, this mobile home mentorship. Touch on
Mhm.
the importance of getting around like-minded people, like, and how much that has helped you.
It's helped a lot. I did do a post in the Gator Facebook group a few months ago that was it's double-edged sword, two-sided coin because it's super motivating. It fires you up, but it also gets your kind of hormones floating this way and that because you're like, oh, this is so great and so easy, and look, they're doing that and they're doing that, and it becomes a FOMO thing, right?
Yeah,
And especially when you spend a couple $1,000s joining this thing, you want to make that money back to prove to yourself that it works.
right.
And so much of these things are join my thing and make this back in 90 days. And so I mean, I did it and made some rash decisions. So just sort of encouraging people to network and use that hive mind to grow their business, but also to just always step back and make sure they're really learning, what they're doing before going into it. Because a lot of what you're seeing is there's Gator, which is all about EMD and transactional funding, getting, I don't want to say bastardized, but transmorphed into a lot of private money
Right.
lending without that really being, that there's nothing wrong with private money lending, but sort of you're applying the same principles and the hope for the similar returns to a much different animal with considerable more risk.
Yeah, I mean, the Gator Lending was not meant to be a private money lending course or mentorship or community. It morphed more into that
It
over, I would,
did. A
yeah,
lot of people who are getting burned, myself included, are doing those sorts of deals without proper education or security or exit strategy. So,
right. And the biggest difference is because you mentioned how, transactional lending, if you do that right, your money doesn't go hard, meaning, you're not really putting your money at risk. You're deploying it into a title company, attorney, escrow, whatever. You're putting your money out there, but as long as you have the right protections in place, you can pull that money back. Can't do that with
right.
private money lending. So,
Nope. How
yeah.
many times have I wanted
Yeah,
to?
definitely. So
Yeah.
that's the big difference that I think a lot of people miss when they're getting into this game and new, especially a lot of these new Gators that, like you said, FOMO is a huge thing. Um, Shiny object syndrome. So,
Yeah. Well, and it is the course or the mentorship or whatever is sold as something that is quote unquote easy or is a low price point barrier to entry. And yeah.
I mean that's a yeah, and going back to a double-edged sword, that's the whole thing. You're gonna get a lot of people come in that think it's the easy button, and I've learned, so many people have learned, you still got to bust your butt and learn. There's no easy button there. So,
No, there definitely is not. And if it's too good of a return to be true, there's probably a reason why. And so I think the thing for me that's helped is not staking everything on just being a PML. I started connecting on deals very early on when, I needed to pull back on putting my own money out there. And I'll still do that. I want to put into connecting a tremendous amount of underwriting and good faith because the worst thing that I would want to do is bring someone onto a deal that doesn't turn out right. And so that I just found to be a bit of a time suck. And sometimes you do all that underwriting and then you couldn't find a lender or the borrower will go and get money somewhere else, and then you're just kind of wasting your time.
Yeah, I mean it's all quick moving is a time game. I mean, borrowers can't sit around and wait for you to find money. They're going to be looking for whoever can bring them money first. They have a
Right.
time frame that they need money by. So yeah, it's you will
And
do a
that's
lot of
why I'd
work.
say just developing those relationships with people who you know are going to need money consistently,
Yeah.
and starting with relationships and starting with getting to know them on a personal level so that you can develop that rapport.
Right. It's definitely ideal to find your borrower that needs money regularly that you've worked with multiple times rather than finding different borrowers all over the country and just doing one-off deals.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to leave my audience, maybe the person that's looking to do their first private money lending deal with a bit of advice, what would you say to someone that's just starting out?
I I would say underwrite, like pretend you're going to start and lend on a deal and do five of them and don't do any of them. But approach every single one of them, even if you don't have the money to lend on it. Um, Go through that process of, networking and talking to people. And that's sort of what I did, is started saying I was a lender before I even really knew, before I even had my LLC fully set up or anything, because I knew pretty quickly that if I could find a good opportunity, I could bring other people in. But my point is, you need to go through that whole process of underwriting it, poking holes in it, doing worst case scenario A, B, and C, and how are like what's going to happen if everything goes to hell, if the economy craps out, if this person dies, if the contractor walks off the job, all of that. So I would say really invest in, and I still haven't taken the underwriting course, which I really want to. Um, but thankfully I have friends who know more than I do. But yeah, just like get really skilled and practiced at poking holes at things.
Yeah, that's great. So before we jump off this, out of any of the YouTube channels, podcasts, or anything that you watch, doesn't even matter if it's real estate, what is your favorite like podcast or channel that you keep follow up with pretty regularly?
Oh man, that's a good one. There's so many, and the problem is that I keep hopping into different things. I have to pull it up because um what in the heck? Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a good answer. You should have prepped me on this one. Uh, no, I don't know. Yeah, right now I'm listening to Joe McCall a lot. So I shifted strategies again and am getting interested in land investing.
Okay,
And he's a great educator. I mean, he's done lease options and wholesaling and everything, but I've learned a lot from his YouTube.
awesome. And if my audience wanted to contact you for any reason, maybe just a question about anything you talked about today, how do you want them to do that?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Maybe you can link that there.
Will do.
That's I'm on Messenger all day long. So and it's yeah, I can give you my email as well. But I love talking with people. I love to try and help people get their first deal, or at least, expand my network of lenders, because I often have opportunities that I don't have the liquidity to fund. And I'm starting to get more into the acquisitions business, so we'll need lenders for my own deals.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely link your Facebook in the description of this video. Well,
Cool.
Gregory, thank you for coming on today. It was great to finally catch up and make this happen.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a